The West Virginia Mountaineers were not able to get it done against the Houston Cougars in Houston in Big 12 action last night, Wednesday, January 15th. But they have a chance to redeem themselves as a top two team. The number two team in the country, Iowa State, rolls into Morgantown this Saturday to give West Virginia a shot to redeem themselves. We're going to recap the Houston game and then look ahead and preview the upcoming game against Iowa State. And we're going to do that right here on this episode of Hoops from the Hills, and we're going to do it right now. What's going on out there, Hoops from the Hills family? Thank you for joining the show. If you're new here, my name is Couz, and I am also host of Couz's Corner, which is my college football show, and Hoops from the Hills is part of the Couz's Corner family of channels. Thank you for joining the show. On this here show, we talk about West Virginia Mountaineer hoops, and we'll also touch on Big 12 hoops as well from time to time, and maybe throw in a little conference realignment talk occasionally too, if it's related to basketball. But let's go ahead and dig in and talk about this West Virginia Mountaineers game against the Houston Cougars. West Virginia falls 70-54 at Houston. Just a really tough game. We knew it was going to be a tough game going in. Houston was the number 10 team in the country for a reason. They are a really good basketball team. West Virginia obviously was going into the game already without Tucker DeVries, the team's second leading scorer. They were already without Jaden Stone, a player who was coming into the season, having averaged over 20 a game in his previous stop. He has not played a game this season due to injury. So West Virginia already shorthanded. They had KJ Tenner, who was making his first appearance after being out 2 games with an upper body injury. He was not able to play but a couple of minutes in the game. So West Virginia basically had a 7-man rotation for the entirety of this game. And when you're playing a team as good as Houston, who is loaded with talent across the board at every position, and a team who plays the type of defense, physical, aggressive style of defense that Houston plays, 7 guys is just not going to get it done, in my opinion. Especially when you're starting point guard, and in this case, probably only true point guard in Javon Small, is having to play the entire game. And they're double teaming him. And he just did not get enough help. But let's go ahead and dig into the stats of this game real quick. I'll do a screen share and we'll look at the ESPN stats. First, let's look at team stats. West Virginia stats on the left, Houston stats on the right. Field goals, West Virginia was 19 of 43 shooting, which is 44.2%. Not terrible. Houston was 25 of 51, 49%. Three-point shooting, West Virginia was 9 of 22, 40.9%. That's good. That's good shooting from 3. However, Houston was even better, 11 of 26, 42.3%. So West Virginia, who's normally really good at shutting down the three-point shot, they are actually 29th in the country in that category, giving up only 29.2% typically from three-point range, gave up 42.3% against Houston. But you have to credit Houston for a lot of that. They did a really good job knocking down shots. Early on in that game, they were not missing. Free throws, West Virginia was 7 of 11. Houston was 9 of 12. 63.6% for West Virginia, 75% for Houston. West Virginia needs to do a better job making free throws. Now, in this game, it wasn't going to make up a 16-point gap, but nonetheless, they need to do a better job making free throws. Rebounds, Houston dominated in this category 30-23. West Virginia just continues to struggle on the glass. Their lone big man, Eduardo Andre, really struggled in the game, was not able to come down with many rebounds. And just as a team overall, they have just not done a very good job rebounding the basketball, and it showed in this game. Offensive rebounds was 9-6 in favor of Houston, and it was 21-17 in favor of Houston on the defensive rebounding. Assists, 11-10 in favor of Houston. Steals, 6-5 in favor of Houston. Blocks, 4-2 in favor of Houston. A category that West Virginia theoretically should have won in, they lost in. Let's look at total turnovers. West Virginia turned it over 12 times, which is not a ton. The problem is Houston turned it over even less. Only 7 turnovers for the Cougars. And when you look at West Virginia's 12 turnovers, Houston was able to turn those 12 turnovers into 25 points. A 25-9 advantage in points off turnovers right there may be your difference in this game. Because, and like Coach Darren DeVries said after the game in his post-game interview, a lot of those were live ball turnovers. You've got to limit the live ball turnovers because they typically lead to points. And as we'll get into later, they cannot do that against Iowa State coming up. They've got to do a better job limiting those live ball turnovers. Fast break points 9-4 in favor of Houston. Points in the paint 24-16 in favor of Houston. Fouls, West Virginia committed 17. Houston committed 11. Largest lead, Houston led by as many as 18 in the game. West Virginia did lead by as many as 5. The game, West Virginia never went away in this game. I give them credit for that. Houston would get out to big double-digit leads. West Virginia would chop their way back in, cut it to single digits, so cut it to 5, even 3 on one occasion. But they just were never able. It took so much energy for them to have to come back. They weren't able to sustain it. And it just Houston just kept pulling away, But I tell you, this West Virginia team fights, man. They fight, they scrap. They're just a tough team. They're tough. They never give up. And I like it. I like this team a lot for that, and I respect them a lot for that. Let's go over and look at the individual player stats here, the box score for this game for West Virginia. Well, let's start with Houston since they won the game. Shout out to Juwan Roberts, the center, who really, really just dominated the game underneath. Eduardo Andre, like I mentioned, could not do anything with him. Amani Hansberry could not do anything with him either when he defended him down low. Now, in the second half, they had a little bit better game plan against him. They started double teaming him. But in the first half, they were trying to go at him one-on-one, and it just was not working. But Juwan Roberts finished the game with 22 points on the night for the Cougars, 10 of 13 shooting. So he was getting most of his shots from close range. Emmanuel Sharp was knocking down threes in the game. He was 3 of 8 from three-point range into the 14 points. LJ Cryer, we all remember LJ Cryer. I wish this guy would move on. I'm tired of LJ Cryer hurting West Virginia on the basketball court. He did it at Baylor, and I was doing it at Houston. Puts in 18 points on 5 of 10 from 3. Just knocking down shot after shot after shot. So those were your major contributors. And also do have to give a shout-out to Milos Uzon, who put in 8 points but also pulled down 7 rebounds for the Cougars. Now, for West Virginia, Javon Small, 13 points on the night, had most of those in the first half, also had 8 assists. They were double-teaming him almost all night and forcing him to get rid of the basketball and forcing somebody else to beat them. And unfortunately, West Virginia just was not able to do that enough. They did not have enough guys step up and play well in this game. And a lot of that, I think, was due to fatigue. I mean, when you look at the minutes played, Javon Small played 38 minutes, 36 for Toby Okani, 37 for Jonathan Powell, 20 for Andre, 23 for Harris, and 19 for Hansberry. And then 19 for Yesufu. So, again, just guys playing a ton of minutes. You have, again, he was second on the team in scoring with 13. Actually, leading the way in scoring was Hansberry, who had 16 on 6 of 8 from the floor and 3 of 5 from 3. Start the second half, West Virginia was down 40-27 at halftime. Amani Hansberry comes out and hits 3 straight three-pointers to cut Houston's lead down. But again, West Virginia was just not able to maintain that, and Houston once again pulled away and ultimately ended up winning 70-54. But hats off to Amani Hansberry. You know, he had been banged up as well for a few games. Finally it looks like he's starting to get back to his old self again. Played well, 16 points. Would like to have seen him have more rebounds. He only had 1 rebound on the game. So I'd like to see him do better in that regard. But a good night scoring the basketball for Amani Hansberry. Hopefully we'll see more of that going forward. I mentioned KJ Tender was only able to play 4 minutes in the game. Joseph Yesufu actually looked like he rolled his ankle or something there late in the game. Hopefully he's going to be okay. They're going to need him down the stretch. Did not have the night he had like he had the previous game against Colorado, where he put in 18 points, had a goose egg in this one. But just overall, Javon Small was not able to get enough help from his teammates to get the win. And, Jonathan Powell had 8 points. Eduardo Andre only 2 points. They need much more of him from that under the basket. And then Sincere Harris had 7 points to go along with 2 steals and 3 rebounds. So decent performance by him. And Toby Okani had 8 and 5 on the night. So at the end of the day, Houston was just a better team. Houston is really good. They're, like I said, they're top 10 for a reason. They deserve that ranking. They just have – the thing with Houston, you can't shut one guy down. If you try to shut one guy down, they have somebody else that hurts you. If Cryer doesn't make a shot, then Emmanuel Sharp will step up and make a shot. If they're not making shots outside, they throw it in to Turner. To Roberts, and then he hurts you. So they just – with them, it's pick your poison, man. they're good. They just have really good talent, really good players, and they're a really good basketball team. And unfortunately, West Virginia just ran into a buzzsaw. Did not, they started looking fatigued to me as an observer, as a fan watching. It looked like they were getting fatigued in the second half because of their lack of depth. But again, they never quit. They continue to show perseverance and heart and hustle each and every game. So I've got to give them kudos for that. But anyway, that's a quick rundown of the Houston game, just giving you my overall thoughts, the stats, and what I thought about the stats and how they led ultimately to a Houston victory. West Virginia now falls to 3-2 in Big 12 play, 12-4 on the season, whereas Houston is now undefeated in Big 12 play at 5-0, and they are, I think, 13-3, I think, overall on the season. So it looks like it could be a 3-team race coming down the stretch between Arizona, Houston, and Iowa State for the Big 12 conference crown. Of course, there are a lot of games left. There are still 15 conference games to go, so the season is far from over. But right now, just the first 21st quarter of the Big 12 play, those three teams are leading the charge. Now, let's go ahead and jump over and really focus on the upcoming game at Iowa State. I'm sorry, against Iowa State in Morgantown. Iowa State, they're 15-1 overall, 5-0 in Big 12 play, number 2 in the country, coming to Morgantown Saturday, January 18th, 2025. The game will tip off at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Central, and will air, as always, if you're a West Virginia fan, will air on ESPN+. So, again, another game on ESPN+. Hopefully this time they actually have the score on the screen for the first few minutes, and hopefully the camera work is not shoddy this time, okay? Let's go ahead and dig into a little bit of Iowa State here. I've been looking up some stats here. I'm going to give you my 3 keys to a West Virginia victory over Iowa State and then talk about some Iowa State players to watch. West Virginia, the first thing that's going to have to impact this game is the crowd. This game's in Morgantown. I haven't heard whether or not I think I heard it's a sellout. So hopefully all 14,000 Mountaineer crazies, along with the Mountaineer maniacs, will be extremely, extremely loud because they have got to do something to impact this game. This Iowa State team, you've got to somehow knock them off their game because they are extremely, extremely talented. When you look at the stats, the advanced stats across the board, they are at least top third in the country in just about every category. They're even, top 10 in the country in some categories, top 20 in some others. They're just a really, really, really good basketball team. So not a lot of weaknesses, to be honest with you. I had a hard time finding areas where West Virginia could gain an edge here, but I did find, I think, a couple, okay? Outside of the crowd being a factor, the second thing that's a key to victory for this West Virginia team, they need to force Iowa State to shoot three-pointers, in my opinion. They need to pack the lane as much as they can, try to force Iowa State to shoot threes. And it's not that Iowa State can't shoot threes. They're shooting it at 35.7% on the season. That's not horrible. It's number 80 in the country out of like 354 teams. So it's not abysmal, but it's not what they want to do. They want to get the ball in transition, score on fast breaks, and score 2-point shots. So if you knock them off their game a little bit, force them to do something they don't want to do, I think that's a way you can win the game. To force them to shoot threes, okay? Hopefully that can happen, and hopefully that will also help lead West Virginia to some transition baskets on long rebounds, if West Virginia can get the rebounds. So right now, Iowa State is number 262 in the country in three-point attempts per game, and they are number 191 in the country in three-pointers made per game. And like I said, they're number 80 in three-point percentage. So that's not what they look to do. They get most of their points inside the three-point line, and a lot of those on transition, which I'll touch on a little bit later. And West Virginia, like I mentioned in the Houston recap, West Virginia's 29th in the country in three-point percentage defense. So they have done a good job up until that Houston game. But for the most part this year, they've done a really good job limiting their opponents behind the three-point line. So if they can get back to that and get back to that really good three-point defense, I think that will play into what they are strong at. The third and final key to a victory for West Virginia, in my opinion, is flip that around. West Virginia needs to make their three-point shots. because Iowa State does a fantastic job at not letting their opponents score inside. They force a lot of turnovers. Number one, they're 7th in the country in forced or in turnover margin. They're forcing 15.8 turnovers a game, and conversely, they're only turning it over like 10.2 times a game. So they're one of they're top 10 in the country in rebound, or in turnover margin. So if you try to get it inside too hard on them or get too aggressive, try to force the issue on them, they're going to force you to turn it over. So West Virginia needs to let the defense come to them, or let the game come to them, take what the defense gives them, and make their 3-point baskets, which West Virginia has been pretty good at for most of the year. And Iowa State, when you look at their 3-point percentage defense, this is one area they're not great in. They're 131st in the country in 3-point percentage defense. They're allowing their opponents to shoot 31.9% from three. So if West Virginia can make their threes, man, it'll go a long way. And let's face it, 3 points are better than 2 points, right? As long as Iowa State are not making their threes, which, again, they're capable of doing, but hopefully they don't. So West Virginia plays good 3-point defense. Iowa State a little weaker in that area. So hopefully West Virginia can get get the advantage in the 3-point shots. Another reason it's important for West Virginia to make their threes. I mentioned that Iowa State loves to get out in transition and score on fast breaks. They're 29th in the country in fast break points. You miss a three, it usually leads to a long rebound and a transition basket, oftentimes a transition basket for the other team. They're averaging 14.8 fast break points a game is Iowa State. Again, 29th in the country. So how do you limit that? The shot goes in the basket. If the shot goes through the net, they don't get those fast break points. So West Virginia, make your shots, especially your 3-point shots. You stand a great chance to win this basketball game. Now let's look at some Iowa State players. The number one player to watch to me is Curtis Jones. Curtis Jones had been coming off the bench for the Cyclones. Actually started this last game for another injured player whose name I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. But Curtis Jones is leading the team in scoring, despite the fact he was coming off the bench. 17.8 points a game, shooting 46.9% from the floor and 41.4% from three. So I said, make them shoot the three. You don't want to – this is Curtis Jones. You want to try to deny him the ball if you can, because you don't want him getting the ball behind the three-point line, because he will burn you. And check these numbers out. Iowa State has played 4 true road games this year. In those 4 true road games, Curtis Jones has actually played better than he has at home as far as scoring the basketball. He is averaging 22 points a game on the road this year and shooting 46.4% from three versus the 41.4% overall. So Curtis Jones is the guy you cannot let Curtis Jones shoot the basketball if you can help it. And when he does get it, you better make sure you close out on him or he's going to drill it. Shooting almost 50% from three on the road. Unbelievable numbers. Other players you need to watch out for. Kershawn Gilbert. Kershawn Gilbert's a really good point guard. The matchup between him and Javon Small going to be fantastic. Kershawn Gilbert averaging 31.19 minutes a game, leading the team in minutes at Iowa State, averaging 15.5 points and 4.9 assists a game. He's another one that can score the basketball on you, but he's also going to look to distribute and get his teammates involved, and he's really good at that. So it'll be interesting to see, will West Virginia put Sincere Harris on him most of the game? Will they put Javon on him? Will they switch him out? Hopefully, West Virginia will have KJ Tenner back and able to play more minutes, because they really need that extra body, man. That one extra body can make a huge difference in these guys getting more rest. Javon can get more rest. Sincere Harris could get more rest. Toby O'Connie can get more rest. And you have another guy in KJ Tenner who you can trust to run the point guard position. He had been Javon's backup at the point spot. Without him, they don't really have another true point guard on the roster. So I think it's important for him. And if teams are going to just start double teaming Javon, man, they're going to wear him down. But if you've got another player in the game who can handle the basketball, it'll help alleviate some of that pressure and some of that stress that they're going to put on Javon. But anyway, back to the key players for Iowa State. Tamin Lipsey, I think we all remember that name, averaging 10.4 points and 2.4 steals a game for the Cyclones. So he's leading the team in steals. And one more name you need to look out for this Iowa State team is Deshaun Jackson. Now, I was able to watch a few minutes of the Iowa State-Kansas game last night, and he had a really good night. Deshaun Jackson had a really good game. Right now, when you look at his overall stats for the season, he's averaging 9.9 points a game to go along with 1.2 blocks per game. So he's their leading shot blocker for the Cyclones. So look out for him. And then last but not least, big forward Josh Jefferson, who's 6'9", 240 out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He's averaging 11.9 points and 8.2 rebounds. So he's the leading rebounder on this team. Eduardo Andre and Amani Hansberry, whoever's in, they have got to put a body on this guy. Do not let him dominate you on the glass. He's very capable of getting a double-double on any given night. Like I said, he's averaging almost 12 a game and 8 rebounds a game. So got to put a body on him. Do not let him out-rebound, or do not let him dominate you anyway on the glass. So those are the key contributors for the Iowa State Cyclones. What do you think? What is your score prediction for this game? And, oh, by the way, yeah, I do need to give a score prediction, don't I? I almost forgot to do that. In the meantime, let me know your score prediction. But the score prediction for the game, Iowa State's averaging 85 a game right now, 85.4 a game. West Virginia's averaging 73.2. Iowa State's giving up 65.3 a game, and West Virginia's giving up 64.3. Iowa State's score differential on average is 20 points a game. Actually, yeah, 20 points a game, 20.1 to be exact. That's unbelievable. So what am I predicting? I don't think Iowa State's beating West Virginia by 20 in Morgantown, but I do give Iowa State the edge because West Virginia needs so many things to go their way in this game. It would help if they had a friendly whistle. It would help if Iowa State is not making shots. It would help if they have some guys back and healthy. All of that needs to go their way, but they need the crowd to be into it. So that hopefully the weather will cooperate to allow fans to get to the game. So that's another thing that could play a factor here. But my final prediction, I do think Iowa State pulls out a victory, though, and I do think the Mountaineers fall short at home against this number 2 ranked team. But I predict that Iowa State wins the game 76-70. I'm predicting a 76-70 victory for the Iowa State Cyclones in this game. I think they get it done, but I think the Mountaineers will be ready. I think they're going to play hard. I think they're going to play better in Morgantown than they did in Houston. But I want to know your score prediction and what are your thoughts on this game against Iowa State. Drop them in the comment section. Also, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button on this video if you liked it. Don't forget to share it with your family and friends who like West Virginia Mountaineer basketball or Iowa State. If you know an Iowa State fan, maybe they will be interested to hear my breakdown of the game. And I would love to hear from Iowa State fans on their thoughts. So share this with your Iowa State family and friends as well. Please subscribe to Hoops from the Hills. Help me get to my next goal of 2,000 subs. I'm getting really, really close. I'm less than 100 away right now. Help me get to 2,000. I'm going to be covering Mountaineer basketball throughout the season here. So come join me on this ride. I appreciate you tuning into this episode. Q Country Roads.